All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for your patience. Today's tardiness was what is the word? Unforeseen. Yeah, it's a great word. Thank you, Dr. Tobin. So welcome to this meeting of the Board of Education. This meeting is being televised live on AACPS TV and streamed on AACPS YouTube channel. General information and protocols for the meeting are posted for the sign by the doorway as you enter the room. So please make sure that you read those if you have not already. The invocation. Oh God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance. Stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's okay. Do I hear a motion to, first of all, I'm sorry, item 2.03, approval of the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Have consensus? Perfect. All right. Where's my document at? Now I've got to read public comments. Give me a second.
Yeah, agenda order.
All right. Next up is item 2.04, establishment of agenda order.
Motion to approve the agenda order.
Second.
We have consensus? Okay. Next up is item 3, public comments on agenda and non-agenda items. This is the one opportunity that the board provides to hear the views of and receive the advice of community members. The members of this board appreciate hearing from interested citizens. As appropriate, we will refer your concerns to the superintendent to follow up by his staff. While we encourage public input on policies, programs, and practices within the purview of this board and the school system, this is not the proper forum to address specific students or employee matters or to comment on matters that do not relate to the public education in Anne Arundel County. I remind everyone that an inappropriate personnel remark or other behaviors that disrupts or interfere with the conduct of this meeting are out of order. Persons who are otherwise disrupt or disturb this meeting will not be allowed to continue their remarks and will be asked to leave the meeting. If not, it is not the board's general practice to engage in a question and answer session with speakers. For the record, please give your name before speaking. Handouts should be given to the board assistants. I ask that the speakers observe the 2-minute clock. A yellow light will shine when they have 30 seconds remaining, and a tone will sound when your time has expired. Please conclude your remarks, and when you hear the tone, if you continue after your time has expired, the microphone will be turned off. It could also be turned off if the speaker addresses specific student or employee matters or concerning comments on matters not related to the public education of Anne Arundel County. And with that, I will have our first in-person speaker up, Ravindra Pilamari. Good afternoon, and you may begin.
My name is Ravi Pilalamari. I live here in Annapolis, and I teach math at Annapolis High School. I think it's good that more offices are taking an interest in student use of personal electronic devices. The new designation, personal electronic device, is also better than specifying communication devices because it includes things like watches and computers. In Part B, labeled as issue, the policy recognizes that these devices have valid educational uses and recognizes the potential for distraction from the learning environment. Cheating with technology is worth mentioning as part of the issue because it's getting easier and easier, and students are losing the distinction between asking a person for help and having the machine learning do things for them. Ways to cheat are pushed to students, so they don't even have to go looking. When I search Google for my school computer for math topics, I often get a little message in the corner from Google asking if I want Gemini to help me with my homework. One of my kids last year kept a second phone in the desk to cheat on an assessment. Later, I tried that myself, and all you really need to do is take a picture of a math problem, and it spits out a whole process. All of us in this room know that students gain something from thinking for themselves, but students seem to increasingly think that in the future they won't have to, and so there's no point trying now. The people selling machine learning want that future too, where intelligence comes from them and we pay to use it on a meter. One of these AI CEOs said they couldn't imagine raising a child without AI. Machine learning is apparently an anti-tool that decreases our ability to do things. I looked online for the current AACPS policy on artificial intelligence and couldn't find it, but I could just be bad at internet search. We got a memo about it 3 years ago. It said its use of artificial intelligence is not permissible for students, but it didn't really say why, and I think that's important. Whether it's in this policy about use of personal electronic devices or somewhere else, policies and regulations must combat, I lost my place. Must combat machine learning undermining what we're trying to do for students. And it's important to do this robustly, making a positive argument for learning, in addition to penalties for failing to, am I done? Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Jennifer Sale? No? Oh, sorry. Got it. I see them now. Ms. Ratasha Hartley, Maureen Thomas. Either one.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ratasha Hartley. I'm the founder and executive director of One Annapolis, a community-based organization here in Annapolis. And I'm here today because I'd like to urge each of you to take a deep dive into our community schools and how they're implemented across the district. Specifically, I would love for you to examine the authenticity of the community partnerships at these schools. How many of these partnerships are truly collaborative? How many of them are formalized through agreements and MOUs with shared goals, shared accountability, and shared decision-making? Because as you know, community partnerships should be more than just inviting people into your space, inviting them into the building. It should be valuing community-based organizations as equal partners in improving the outcomes for students and families. I also challenge you to look very, very closely at the Annapolis cluster. Given the demographics of our students here in the cluster, and the racial disparities that we see affecting Black students in particular, how many of our community schools have formal partnerships with Black-led organizations, Hispanic-led organizations that are deeply rooted in the communities that we serve? I encourage the board to request a budget breakdown from your community schools, showing how much funding is allocated to salaries versus direct services. And when these personnel are funded, what accountability do they have to the communities whose needs justify that funding in the first place? And I'm urging this based on our own experience this year. It was very difficult to have meaningful partnership and collaboration because that was, of course, absent. We were tolerated instead of celebrated. There was no shared accountability. There was, again, minimal collaboration, and at times indifference and even disrespect towards our staff and our volunteers. And no partnership can succeed under those conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Maureen Thomas.
Good afternoon, Dr. Bedell, board members, other stakeholders. My name is Maureen Thomas. I'm a 25-year veteran of AACPS. The last 10 have been in my current role as a 12-month academic specialist for the high school English office. Prior to that, I was a classroom teacher in the county. I'm here today to advocate on behalf of myself and my colleagues for the reinstatement of the policy which allowed us to telework for 5 days a year. During the school year, we spend 3 to 4 days a week doing work in schools, interspersing our clerical and administrative type duties with our time with teachers and students. During the last 2 years, the telework days were appreciated as it is a much less stressful environment to complete tasks that rely on concentration and a computer in quiet. We know that studies indicate a boost in productivity when working from home on tasks that do not require collaboration. While collaboration is a huge part of our job, there are many times when solitude and quiet are necessary. Most, if not all of us, work in offices where conditions are far from ideal. For example, my workspace, when I am not in a school, is a classroom at Point Pleasant Resource Center where I share an office, repurposed classroom with 8 and sometimes 9 other people. It is open space, so when it is necessary to meet virtually or concentrate, it means wearing headphones most of the workday as concentration is required. I believe that the pilot stressed accountability, and I would be most curious if there is any evidence that supports a lack of productivity when AACPS employees telework. I'm also curious by default why other units who perform administrative and computer-driven tasks have telework policies for 1 day a week, and how something like that might be considered in the future. As you know, public education faces unprecedented competition for skilled professionals. Surrounding counties, such as Howard County Public Schools, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is our virtual. And first up that I have is Jennifer Sale.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Sell. I'm a middle school teacher in the Annapolis cluster, and I'm a parent of an elementary student in the Severna Park cluster. I'm here to express my disappointment in the board's policy and regulations on student use of personal devices in the classroom. According to the policy, our school board has only 2 positions, both of which affirm use of personal electronic devices in the classroom. Even though the board is taking the time to make changes to this policy and regulations, the changes are minuscule and show no evidence of the board's knowledge of growing research on the harms of screen use in the classroom. As a middle school teacher, I am imploring you to take stronger actions against electronic devices in the classroom. In particular, we have students that have an unhealthy, almost addictive relationship with their cell phones. Enforcing our current guidelines, which are not backed up or supported by the regulations, is almost impossible with these students. These students have their phones in their hand during every minute of the school day, and reminding them to put away, telling them to put away, or asking them to give them to an adult after they refuse to put away will typically result in an emotionally dysregulated response that prevents the rest of the class from focusing for upwards of 5 minutes while waiting for a behavioral specialist or member of admin to come assist with the student. This will typically result in the student leaving the classroom, either through elopement or by request of an adult who is helping to de-escalate the situation. On days I am able to get them to put their phone away and keep them in the classroom, I often look over to see them sleeping, as the dopamine loss they were experiencing from not having the constant feedback from their phone causes them to get bored. Either way, these students are not emotionally available for learning, and our cell phone policy, regulations, and guidelines are not working for these students. I am asking you, as the superintendent and board, to begin taking this issue seriously. Look at schools that have had success in this issue and replicate their procedures elsewhere. Support your teachers, admin, and staff in ensuring that students are mentally present and emotionally available for learning in our classrooms. Please read the research and take a stance. If you continue to not take action on this topic,
Thank you. Your time has expired.
Please, thank you. All right, next up is Kelly Barr. You're next up, Ms. Kelly.
Okay, Kelly Barr, school psychologist, Glendale Regional. Good afternoon, and thank you for taking the time to hear my testimony. I'm sure most people don't spend their 2 minutes expressing gratitude, so I do want to share my sincere appreciation for all that you do. I can't express how disheartening it was to learn that the teleworking pilot was not extended for the 26-27 school year. Psychologists and other 12-month school-based employees make up a small portion of AACPS, but our work is really important. I work at Glendale Regional with some of the most amazing kids in the district, but they have social, emotional, and behavioral needs that exceed most people's understanding. I absolutely love my job. I really do. If I hit the lottery, I'd continue to do it. And while it may seem slightly dramatic, providing those 5 telework days allowed me to be productive enough to mitigate many of the challenges I face daily working in such an intense setting. When I initially learned that the telework pilot would no longer be extended, I've never felt so deflated professionally. We were never made aware that the pilot wouldn't be extended, and we weren't asked to provide data or input to suggest its efficacy before deciding to discontinue. As I'm sure many of you have been made aware, the increasing demands and documentation requirements related to special education and/or compliance issues has reached a point that often feels insurmountable. By providing school psychologists those 5 telework days, we could more effectively balance those demands, which allowed us to be more present and available for consultation, behavior, crisis management, direct services with children, and complete the face-to-face responsibilities more fully when in the building. One psych assessment takes on an average of 8 hours to complete. AACPS psychologists completed an average of 22 assessments in previous years. That's 176 hours and having those telework days allowed for uninterrupted time to complete some of the report writing among all of the other paperwork responsibilities such as IEPs, Medicaid billing, and documentation of services. There are a few benefits to working in education, and providing telework days was a way of offering value for my position and role without any financial burden to AACPS. You as board members have the power to open
Please
the MOU
conclude.
and reintroduce those days and restore the value and worth that was lost. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Judith Baum, Jessica Hunt, and Shannon Dillon.
Members of the board, my name is Judith Baum, and I have served as a high school counselor in AACPS for the past 7 years. Over the past 2 years, school counselors had access to 5 telework days per year. I want to explain why those 5 days were not a benefit or just a convenience. They were an essential tool that allowed us to better serve our students. Unlike many other positions, a counselor's day is largely unpredictable. We must be available whenever a student is in crisis, needs emotional support, or simply needs someone to talk to. When that happens, everything else stops, as it should. But the work doesn't stop. We are also responsible for writing letters of recommendation, completing college forms, conducting credit checks, managing home and hospital applications, reviewing transcripts, and ensuring students are scheduled correctly. These tasks require uninterrupted concentration, something that is very difficult to find during a typical school day. I also want to point out that counselors frequently take on additional caseloads when colleagues are out on leave, most often without substitutes. In my 7 years with AACPS, I've never had a year when a counselor was not out on FMLA. And each time, the remaining counselors took on the extra work with no additional compensation. Those 5 telework days gave us dedicated time to complete these critical responsibilities while remaining available and responsive. They helped us stay caught up so we could continue giving students the attention they deserve when they walk through our doors. These days were scheduled strategically when other counselors were available to provide coverage and only with administrative approval. 5 days out of an entire school year is a very small amount of time, but it makes a significant difference in our ability to support students socially, emotionally, academically, and with their college and career planning. I respectfully ask that you consider restoring this valuable tool. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jessica Hunt.
Good afternoon, Jessica Hunt, parent of Bates Middle School student, one of the 3 pilot schools for the middle school redesign. One word today, transparency. Your own strategic plan calls it the cornerstone of this district's work. Regular updates, open communication, meet that standard. Today, the state mandated more math time, not in question. What AACPS chose, cutting science and social studies by 26% each, was a local decision, your decision. Families didn't learn about this until June 2nd, and parents are still finding out every single day. What data justified the 26% cut? What alternatives were considered? Which were rejected, and why? We asked, silence. We still don't know who leads the middle school task force. The roster has never been public, even though your own strategic plan committee named over 70 members publicly by name. Release the roster, release the meeting notes, release the documentation. Your plan also promises ongoing assessment and adjustments at every phase of implementation. Where are the benchmarks? Where is the timeline? This pilot expands to every middle school next year. Families deserve answers before that happens, not after. Why is AACPS rushing forward without benchmarks, without data, without a definition of what success even means? Dr. Bedell, you were reappointed this year. Not one email answered since February. Another follow-up sent yesterday. Still nothing. You, sir, are being less than transparent. We asked the elected board for help. We were told, quote, not in our purview, quote.
oversight of how our kids are taught is exactly in your purview. We've asked for a meeting since June 10th. 6 weeks, nothing. So show us the data. Show us the rejected schedules, release the notes, set real benchmarks, meet with us. Answer honestly, how is this the best schedule for our kids? Thank you.
Thank you. Shannon Dillon. All right, that concludes. Thank you. That concludes the public comments. I want to thank everybody and continue to advocate on behalf of your community. Next up is item 4.01, the President's Report. That's fine. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon. This board remains focused on its mission, supporting students' achievement, strengthening governance, engaging in our community, and advocating for a high-quality public education for every student in Anne Arundel County. And this report is brought to you about real, tangible things that have occurred in our school system toward our mission of progression. Throughout the leadership of Dr. Bedell, along with Melissa Rawls, and members of our unions, our district staff, many of the employee association leaders, and every negotiated agreement was reached and ratified by June 30th for the first time in many, many, many years. A milestone that this district did not only celebrate, but I want to commend them again today by saying that I am very, very excited, along with members of this board, that has shared a commitment that almost among everything that we have on the table, we took time out to make sure that the people that works for our Anne Arundel County Public Schools system has stability and understand that they was respect and earn. And we'll continue to do that in this upcoming year as we continue to build on the relationships. So congratulations to all of our employee association leaders, Ms. Melissa Rawls and Dr. Bedell, for a job well done. This board also adopted an unprecedented budget. Yes, we did talk about it. We want to make sure that it's one that's built on students, our school, and with our communities in mind. This is not only a meaningful investment, but it also talks about what it takes in order for us to keep our buildings and facilities open, affirming our community stability for long-term strategic planning for this district. Together, these decisions lay a foundation for strong student outcomes, a stronger workforce, and a district that's ready to meet this in years ahead. As we echoed before, 2026 and the outcomes of 2026 academically has been like no other. You will hear from our school superintendent later about unprecedented numbers that has happened in our school. This represents our students, not just a symbolic matter, but in a manner to where this board takes pride in being a board that governs, ensuring that the students most affected by our decisions have a seat in making them. And to that end, we are proud to welcome Ms. Sarah Hamdawi, our new student member of the board. During her reign this year, I ask that you continue to support her. Over the years, you've supported our student members of the board, and we've aimed for us to give them the right intentions. We have the only full voting right of a student member of the board. We intend to keep that, and our pact to you, Ms. Hamdawi, is to make sure that you continue to be the voice of 84,000 students and growing, and that you continue to know that we support you 100% during your reign this year for our school year. Last but not least, I had the pleasure over the summer, and I really wanted, this is something that I know that you all do with thinklessness. You don't even think of it, and this is to the staff. During this summer, I've had the pleasure of visiting schools. I've seen the faces light up. The summer enrichment programs have been absolutely amazing. I talk to parents, talk to students. They are really, really enjoying the career-focused learning that they're getting. But not only that, what really made my heart really proud is AACPS not only kept engaged in the momentum that they had in learning, but they have a summer meal program that is absolutely incredible. So I just cannot commend you all enough. I don't know what it takes to make sure that our summer programs are staffed properly, but all the schools is fully staffed, all the students are happy, and just to see the nutrition program just really made me actually tear up. So I ask that you continue to do that and continue to support that. And for our funders, this is one of the programs that really goes a long way. And so when you see that small line item in the budget about keeping our schools open during the summer and keeping food and nutrition as the forefront to make sure that our children do belong, grow, and succeed, I, as one board member, appreciate everything that you've done over these summer months. So please continue to do so. Finally, as we look ahead and we welcome our students back for another school year, this board remains committed to ensure that every student learns in an environment that is safe, well-supported, and conducive to success. On behalf of the Board of Education, I extend my appreciation to all of our students, teachers, supported staff, administrators, families, community partners, for those that contributed with dedicated service. Together, we continue to build an opportunity for a place for every child to belong, grow, learn, achieve, thrive, and succeed. Thank you. Yes. Ms. Pulliam.
So I just wanted to add, over the past couple of weeks, we went on farm tours organized by the Farm Bureau with the expansion of our agriculture program. Thank you very much, Ms. Catalano and team. I know there's 3 new institutes, but with the expansion of that program, the Farm Bureau, Soils Conservation, the Ag Conservation Committees brought together community stakeholders, elected officials to go and tour different farms within Anne Arundel County, in the southern part of the county. One of those farms Rockhold is one of the farms that the county government actually has acquired. That is a farm where our students actually raise their livestock for those who can't raise it in their homes and where they live currently. So I just want to thank everyone that came out. We had Senator Don Geil, Senator Shanika Henson, Delegate Seth Howard. We had Ms. Dent with us, President Dent. We had Delegate Latoya Congolo. We had a whole massive group of folks, and I just want to thank everybody. As this program continues to grow, I'm hoping that more and more students will see the opportunity. Thank you.
And with that, just want to give out a shout out to Dr. Stacy Eccles, who has been appointed for the first for Anne Arundel County to the Agriculture Board for the state of Maryland. So that's pretty cool. So thank you all. With that, that concludes the President report. I see no more lights. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to start by adding my welcome to Ms. Hamdoui. It is great to have you here, and I'm excited about what you will bring to this board over the coming year. Now, I do have a short report today, but I think you will find it very exciting. So on this next slide, I'm going to throw some numbers out for you to consider. 286.7, 1.12, 10,757, and 1. So, any of the board members up here, you have any idea what any of these numbers may represent?
It's just one of you.
Oh, yes, there is. That's not it, though. But yes. So I struggled when I was talking to Bob about what we would put in the superintendent's report. And the only one that I knew was the 10,757. And he was saying, don't cheat, just keep thinking. And I couldn't figure out the other ones. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and tell you all. So let's start with the 286.7. The 286.7 is $286.7 million. That's what the class of 2026 earned this year in scholarship offers. Now, what's important is that that's about 52 million more than the class of 2025. Of the class of 2026 total, more than 122 million came from students in our AVID program. So that, again, signifies the importance of what Avid is doing, in particular for many of our students who will be first-time college attendees and their family. So, okay, next is the 1.12. That's 1.12 billion with a B. $1 billion in scholarship offers earned by our graduating seniors over the last 5 years. Think about that and what it means, not just to students, but to families across our county. Now, before we move on this one, the reason why this is important is because I think everything that we're trying to do to really get our kids to have earlier access to a much more rigorous educational experience is by design. It's designed that if they can access a more rigorous curriculum, then our hope is by the time we get these kids into our high schools, they are taking these competitive courses, and I think there'll be a deep data dive that will come in at some point. But I could tell you, dual enrollment, the number of kids who are taking these type of courses has significantly increased. All of those things also help with cost saving. So when we make these requests in the budget, and we're asking for nearly about half of $1,000,000 to do these things and provide these things for free, here's what the return looks like. And it is much more significant for our community as a whole. So now we'll move on to the 10,757. That's the number of AP exams. No, not that we administered this year or this past school year, because the reality is we administered a record high over 16,000 AP exam. It's the number of AP exams our students took that earned scores of 3 or higher. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that represents about 60% of the total exams our students took. Think about that and what it also means, not just to our students, but to our families. I was in a College Board Superintendent Advisory meeting a month ago in Reston, Virginia. And in that room with us was Ivy League admission directors. We had Tier 1 schools. We had smaller schools represented in there. We had HBCUs represented in there. And the one thing that we all discussed was the importance of our kids taking these IB courses, taking dual credit, and taking advanced placement, and how it really does present a heavier weight for these students, and the confidence that these admission counselors have in admitting students when students have had exposures to those. And the exposure is more important than the 3. If they're able to take these courses and have access to the rigor, that's great. And then it's just a bonus when they can score a 3 or better, and that's what we've seen. These numbers aren't just a credit to our high school teachers and staff. They are a credit to every single person in this school district, because the work begins in early childhood and pre-K4 and continues all the way through the point where students grasp that diploma on the graduation stage. Now, I want to leave you with this because this is important, and I just presented this at Harvard last week because I wanted them to understand the importance of what we're doing in this county. Advanced placement takers have increased by 55.4% over the last 4 years. African American students they've had the highest increase, 121.7%. Hispanic, 121%. Free and reduced lunch students, 190%. But 3s are better. As a county, we've increased the number of 3s by almost 91%. African American students, 250.3% increase. Hispanic students, 272.7%, and free and reduced lunch students, 220.2%. And we can quantify these numbers. I'll just use African American students, 362 in 21-22. We've had 1,268 of those now that are 3s or better. And so this is going to save our families a tremendous amount of money when these kids enter into these universities, because the vast majority of these universities accept them. The Ivies, they have told us, generally don't, but the vast majority of these universities do accept these qualifying scores that our kids are getting on these national normed assessments. So thank you to our entire staff, our parents, our students, to our community, and to this board for all of the work that's being done to achieve these numbers. And then finally, 1, that represents Wall Chapel Elementary School's Best Buddies chapter, which was named the best elementary chapter in the nation on Saturday. Wall Chapel started our county's first Best Buddies chapter less than 3 years ago and has earned this honor in that short time. This comment from Amber Yates, Director of Program for Best Buddies International, says it all. Wall Chapel has truly set the standard for what an elementary school chapter can be, proving that when students are empowered to lead with kindness and understanding, the ripple effect can transform an entire community. We have much more work to do on behalf of our students, and we will keep doing that work. But this is what belong, grow, and succeed looks like. Madam President, that concludes the superintendent's report. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Great report, Dr. Bedell. Moving on to item 5, consent awards, items of awards of contracts.
Motion to bundle.
Second.
Have consensus? Dr. Bedell.
Madam President, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education authorize the award of the contracts on the consent items numbered 5.01 through 5.05.
Any discussion? Can we get a motion?
Motion to approve items 5.01 to 5.05.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Howe?
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott? Aye. Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Shawheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland? Aye. Ms. Hamdawi?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Ms. Stent?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
All right, next up is item 6.01, administrative personnel appointments. Dr. Bedell, your recommendation?
Madam President, the superintendent recommends that the personnel listed on the attached sheet be promoted and/or appointed as discussed in executive close.
Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I see no lights. Ms. Howe?
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott? Aye. Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Shawheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
And Ms. Stent?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Next up, item 6.02, personnel. Dr. Bedell, your recommendation?
Madam President, the superintendent recommends that the board approve the actions as stipulated on the attached sheets.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, any discussion? I see no lights. Ms. Howe?
Dr. Tobin? Aye. Ms. McDermott? Aye. Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Shawheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
And Ms. Stent?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
All right. Next item is policy revision for third reader, item 6.03, use of personnel electronic communications devices by students policy JCO.
All right, Madam President, I will take these as Grace is out. As a reminder, this policy is being updated to codify current practice governing student personal electronic device uses. With that being said, the superintendent recommends approval of policy JCO, subject to final correction for style and format.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Howe? Oh, I'm sorry, didn't see it. Thank you. Ms. Shawheim?
Yes, so I was listening to public comments and reviewing the language of this policy, and I think first and foremost, I would love to get on the record when we will have an AI policy come before policy committee. So I guess that's my first question, which would be, if Ms. Wilson were here, presented to her. So I'll take any staff response.
You wanna come up, Mike? So what I will share with you is we are working on ultimately creating a tagline that we want to then use that as a basis to move forward with policy. But I think it's important for me to just share with you all, I think as a school district, we do have a responsibility to educate our students on how to be excellent users over AI rather than AI being a user over them. And so this is a conversation, and the reality is we've had a consultant or two that have come in to work with us around trying to figure out a way to create policy. I think what's been very difficult about that is at the rate of change that we're experiencing with AI, the second we create something, it has now evolved into something else. And so Mike Borkowski's here, our CTO, if there's anything you would like to share. But I do agree with you, Ms. Schauheim, that we really do need to look at some type of governing policy at some point with this.
Good afternoon. For the record, Mike Borkowski, Chief Information Officer. Just want to go ahead and just expand a little bit on what Dr. Bedell was talking about. A legislation was passed that requires us as a school district by September to actually have an AI policy in place. We are actually working right now on a draft of policy and regulation. Also understanding the fact that I don't know where we are in the process in regards to the board officially selecting what policies that are going to be done this year, but this is a policy that will be part of that. In addition, we have to update our technology use and security policy as well as data governance. So there are a lot of things that work together here. In addition, the state of Maryland and MSDE did provide guidance to us to follow. So these are things we have to do in the creation of our policy and our regulations as we go forward. Obviously, there's a lot of work that we have to do here. So, but we look forward to the challenge.
I really appreciate that clarification. I think that needs to be put out there to the public, that these things are forthcoming, that we're not going to try to recreate the wheel, that we're going to lean on what the state has provided to us, what other experts in the field are already doing, possibly including, I don't know, some of the universities about, like University of Maryland. I know that they have a think tank that's involved in this and others, so that we make sure that we get it right. But we also need to acknowledge, in a vacuum with the personal use of electronic devices by students might be saying to folks in the interim that that caused obviously some concern and some public testimony. And so, as current chair of policy committee, yes, I was like all on board, but then I heard this testimony and now I'm questioning whether or not some of the position statements can be further tightened or further clarified or dialed in to some degree. And so, I mean, at the appropriate time, I do have a separate motion to make around that. But I thank you for your clarification. I wanted to put that out into the universe, what you all are working on and what's coming. And I don't think it should be at some point. I think that it obviously needs to be as soon as possible, even if it can't be when the state demanded it of us, because that's what happens when you put out guidance on, June? Just saying. Thank you.
Ms. McFarland. Thank you, Ms. Schauheim.
Yes, mine's sort of along the same lines. I know Ms. Schauheim had asked this on first reader, but since we're voting on it today, I just kind of want to sort of restate why we are updating this policy now when legislation is going to have us come back and change it when we're going to have bell-to-bell restrictions on cell phones and personal electronic devices. So if you can kind of let us know sort of the reasoning why we are going to change this and then have to revisit it again.
Well, I believe this was already on the docket to be reviewed, and I think we generally will have policies that will either have to be revised or amended, and some of it is just date time-stamped. So when legislation passed, I mean, this was already a part of that, but you're right. We will have to come back, and we will have to make amendments to make sure that we're in alignment with the new legislation that passed, which doesn't go into effect until 26-27. I think the other issue that we run into is wanting to make sure that we're sticking with the timeline on this, so that we can make sure that, as we said, that the language in here is codified. We as a staff there will have to be some significant engagement that will have to take place with our school leaders, the unions, families, about what this will look like. And we have a plan on how we plan to introduce some of that when we go out this year and have our community conversations about the law and our expectations around making sure that cell phones, electronic devices, and those type of things are no longer going to be used as distractors.
Yes, thank you. And I guess my concern is really for this school year, because, you know, as we heard at the testimony today, and I've heard from other teachers that cell phones have become a real distraction. So I do look forward to updating the policy. I just I wish that we could do it a little bit sooner, but I do understand that it has to be a very thoughtful process. We have to think through everything. We have to talk to all our unions and just be very thoughtful about it. But hopefully, you know, the educators will hear that, you know, something is coming. We are working on it, and we'll hope to address this issue.
And we agree with the educators. Let me be very clear. We changed guidance last year. It was much better last year than it was the year before. Because I was receiving tons of emails, and even when I would go to schools, there were a lot of complaints about the use. And so putting those restrictions in last year, we did everything short of a full-blown ban. But I will tell you, implementation sometimes vary from school to school. And I've been in some schools where I have seen it where it's really tight, and I've been in some schools where it's loose. And I think, again, having this legislation to pass, this will give us everything that we need to really move in the direction that I think I wanted to move in 2 years ago. But, you know, we received a lot of pushback, too, when we talked about a full ban. Let's not forget that in this room.
Mr. Shuttleworth.
So I understand everything that my colleagues have said. I, as someone that has actually been there, been in the classroom, had to deal with the cell phone or electronic device issue, I'm in support of this policy. While Part 2B talks about teachers shall determine authorized use within their respective classrooms. But that's within the framework of the superintendent's designee or the admin having provided some recommendations about what is okay and what is not okay. For me, the biggest issue with this has to do with the relationship piece, because if the teacher builds a relationship with students, you're not going to have an issue with electronic devices. I can relate to back when I was teaching, where I never had problems with the electronic devices, but there were some teachers who actually did, but in most cases it's because they didn't have the kind of relationship that was necessary, built upon respect and so forth. And as I think about this, there's several things that pop out to me. One is when it comes to administering this, consistency. So if the teachers have the ability to make a determination, that was a problem. It was a problem. And so it potentially could be a problem. So, but it has to be within the framework of, we have a student code of conduct. And if students understand that this is not the time to have the device out, they should be putting it away, then that should occur. And accountability is also an issue. In some cases, I remember years ago, there were 3 warnings before there was anything actually happening. And that's really not appropriate. But as you said, we're going to have to be dealing with this for the following year. And but for the upcoming year, I'm okay with this based upon what I've talked about. And so, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shuttleworth. Dr. Tobin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Burkowski and Dr. Bedell. I do think The speed at which things are changing is an incredibly important factor here, and I think we're constantly sort of in this situation of fighting the last war. And so it makes me think there's some broader discussion to be had about policy in general. How do we develop frameworks, policies, structures that allow that kind of movement and aren't constantly putting us in a position where we're dealing with the problem at this moment when the policy's drafted and things change so quickly. I don't have an answer to that. I just throw that out there. But a couple of other things I want to mention. I think something very important in the testimony we heard, and I've heard and seen in a lot of classroom visits and heard from a lot of educators and parents, is the emotional regulation piece. And I think that's a bigger issue here. We have children, and often very young children, this is showing up in elementary school quite a bit, who simply can't regulate without a screen. They have it all the time. And that's a complex issue in terms of classroom management, behavior, the ability to be ready to learn. And I think this discussion has to be of a piece with screen time in general. We've had testimony previously from members of the public, parents who are concerned about the amount of screen time in class that's still going on. And I think we have to be careful we're not sending mixed messages. So if we're saying on the one hand, as the state requires us to, bell-to-bell ban on personal electronic devices, it's very tricky if videos are constantly being used in the classroom, especially with very young children, and at moments where in the past, children might have been working together on shared activities, they're now all sitting and watching a video. And so I think as we consider this, there potentially needs to be more PD for educators, because we have a lot of educators now who came into the classroom in COVID, and videos were everything. For very good reason, but that's not what we want in a face-to-face classroom, or frankly what we need. And I think there needs to be support for those educators, because I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I've heard educators, especially again with younger students, talk about this, that sometimes the only way to get the classroom to regulate is to put on a video. And so you're in this cyclical situation. Now, I'm going to say that this is, as with all things, a partnership with families. If children are on screens all the time at home, we're in a very difficult situation in school when we are now shutting it down. And I have friends who have children in middle schools in my district who take their kids' phones away at night and are shocked to see some of their kids' friends calling on those phones or texting at 2 a.m, which means there are other kids who are in their rooms with their phones at 2 a.m. And that is not something a school can control. And so somehow, this has to be a joint project with families and schools, or we're all going to lose here. But mostly the children are going to lose. So I think as we consider these things, these aren't just siloed policies, though those are necessary. This is one of the more complex challenges humans have faced in a very long time. And I think figuring out how to as Dr. Bedell said, support students in becoming intelligent users of technology who can master technology but not be mastered by it is the goal. And placating children with it is a very good way to turn them into people who are enslaved by it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin. Ms. Pulliam?
Not sure. I think you've said pretty much a lot of the things in a very a nice, formal manner. I agree with everything that you mentioned, Dr. Tobin. I will say we see the increase in behaviors in the elementary school level, and I think a lot of that, based on the teachers, is that screen time. I also want to mention the relationship with families, because it really does start in the nucleus of your home. And if it doesn't change there, it's no matter what our policies are, it's not going to make it better in the classroom. Even when the state doubled down with their policies. So I do want to plead to our families to work with us on this, because it really is important. I want to switch topics to the AI policy. Mr. Burkowski, I want to thank you for taking your time, because the more I talk to my former colleagues in different university settings, the AI issue is a problem. They're actually having a lot of issues at the university level as well. And as soon as they think they have it, as you mentioned, Dr. Tobin, technology changes. So even with the Google Lens, that we have the AI in the platforms built in all of those different pieces, the phone, the iPhone, the Google Lens glasses, we have the Microsoft, all of those things are there. And so mitigating that is not going to be easy, but I do see it as a real problem. And it also hinders like creative thinking and all of those things. If you can just, here's my problem and write it out. I hear from college students, that's the way I pass my test. I put it in there. It tells me how to work through my formulas. So I don't envy you, but I am really excited to see what you guys come up with. And we do know that time, like as soon as this comes out, there may be another revision right after. But as soon as we start getting there, like Ms. Schelheim mentioned, getting something there so we can start throwing the darts at it. But I will tell you, no matter what think tank it is, especially at the University of Maryland, it is an issue. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Pullman. And Ms. Schelheim?
Okay, so here's what I want to acknowledge. The changes that we're proposing in the policy itself, to me, look mostly technical. So we're adding some responsible offices. We're striking we're striking just a couple of words in the purpose, which really doesn't change the meaning of the purpose. We're adding of Anne Arundel County to the Board of Education in the issue. We're striking communication and adding electronic in position 1, and so forth. To me, these are technical edits, but given what we've heard, and yes, you're right, I was against the ban. I'm still against the ban. I still think the MGA got it wrong. It's the 28-29 school year where we have to have something dealt with. All that aside, I still think there's a disconnect between what is happening in the classroom, what is written here, and what the regulation seeks to achieve, right? The regulation talks mostly about adaptive devices for students that utilize special education services. That is very important. I don't want to hinder that part. I want the regulation to move through as written. I think the policy language itself needs some work. And so I'm going to offer a motion of tabling that for the time being, while letting the regulation that is, to me, wholly separate from the changes in the policy. If you look at your board docs, and I'm sure you all have read it thoroughly, this is the third reader, I expect you have, seeks to do. So I'd like the regulation to move forward, and I want a motion to table the policy, because there's a difference between adaptive devices for students with disability who utilize special education services, whether they're personal or school issued, versus personal electronic devices, which most of us immediately think of as phones and watches and iPads or whatever else. So that's what I'm going to offer. We'll see where it goes. I move to table the policy while moving forward with the regulation as edited.
Is there, there's a motion, can I get a second? Is there-
I'll second.
All right, I'm going to
I'll
open it up. I'm going to open it up for discussion. Dr. Tobin.
So I guess my one concern about this is a question I need to ask Dr. Bedell, because Dr. Bedell, you indicated there's a time element here in terms of feeling you have what you need to communicate with building leadership and so forth. And I guess the question is twofold. One, would this be a hindrance? In other words, is moving forward with the regulation sufficient to give you what you need? And secondly of all, tabling, I guess I'm always a little concerned about an open-ended tabling. I think, usually I'd like to see a time frame on this if we proceed this way.
I'm open to a friendly amendment, whatever that might be.
All right.
Yeah, but yes, I do think it would be difficult. And so I think I made a comment that we also know that we have to come back to address all of this. And additionally, as far as what's happening in our schools, I mean, I just had a conversation with Christina the other day about my concerns with even how brain breaks are being utilized. So I guess the point I'm making is we are very aware of this. I've heard from enough educators around the concerns, and I think we've been making movement to make these adjustments. Also, just the mere fact that, again, we're working to codify here does not restrict us in ultimately being able to enforce around, how we expect screen time to be utilized or not utilized. So I'll let Mr. Dickerson, who works closely with Grace on this matter, also offer some thoughts.
Michael Dickerson, Chief of Staff. Ms. Wilson will be back in a couple of weeks, so she is not here tonight, obviously. She shared that if there were going to be any changes to the policy, the regulation is based on the policy, and so if we don't make any changes tonight, if we don't vote today, we'll essentially stay with the policy that's in place and the regulations that are in place. And so we wouldn't move forward with the regulation without something being done to the policy. We would just revert back to the policy and regulation that are currently in place.
I just, in the words of Bob Zitworth, I've been a good listener. I think that two things. One, I respect every comment that's been made this afternoon. I think the policy at the onset was for style edit updates that are being done for general cleanup of the policy itself. The couple of things that I don't want to get conflated. There's a conversation that was happening around that kind of took us, I think, is off a little bit off of where we were at with this particular policy, was to just give a little bit more clarity and guidance so that we could update the regulation. I think the AI policy is a secondary conversation that should not be conflated with this conversation that we're having right here. So I want to take that off the table for the sake of what I'm getting ready to say. The policy itself is I think, fine in us for the third reader. If there is, and we know that the legislation was passed to, I think, Mr. Jakowski's point, that, or Dr. Bedell, whoever said it, that we were already in the review of this particular policy at the time that we did it. And so we do take it very seriously about updating our policies and regulations by things that's been put out by Maryland General Assembly. And we will do that. But I don't know that we're serving any real purpose to delay the policy, because the things that we're talking about updating is actually going to talk about updating the entire policy. So I think that, for me, I just want us to consider that there's a real value in delaying us updating the policy and regulation, or getting the work done to update the policy and regulation. And I think we're starting to set a different precedence that we want regulations updated before we update policy, and that's opposite of what our policy is, which is we update the policy so that it can guide the up-tempo that you're doing and the changes that you're making to the regulation. So I just ask to take that under consideration. I don't know where this is going to land, Ms. Schallheim, but I'm not wedded to it one way or the other, to be honest with you. I just thought that the policy in itself was just for tech edit, and so I was just trying to get that taken care of. And so I do agree with you on your comments, just so we're clear. I don't disagree with anybody by the fact with everything that's been made here. I just don't know that there's a lot of value in pushing this back another month for us to, do it. So that's where I'm standing at, and I'm going to give Dr. Tobin and then give you the closing comments. Dr. Tobin?
Sorry, my light should have gone off.
All right, so I'm going to give board members, is there any other comments so I can give Ms. Schallheim the final comments? All right, Ms. Schallheim.
All right, I hear you all, and happy to withdraw by any, however we need to do that. I know it's the board's motion, yada, 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 it's fine. I am going to push back on the words that we're changing in the policy directly impacting the words of the regulation, because the two don't relate to each other at all. The regulation changes are substantively about use of adaptive devices for students who utilize special education services. The changes of the policy are mostly tech edits. I wanted to acknowledge and agree with what we've heard from in terms of public testimony and the problems that still obviously exist within the classroom by the use of electronic devices, even though we have what I think is a good set of guidelines until the state decided to screw with it, that's now going to impact the way we move forward in 28, 29. So, I mean, I don't think this is perfect. I know it's coming back before us. Fair enough, I can read a room. So if y'all don't want to vote for this, we can unanimously decide by consensus to withdraw my motion. But I did want to acknowledge and agree with and hope that we work towards real solutions that address what we heard in public testimony, both in terms of AI and the use of any sort of electronic screens or whatever to educate our children and the negative effects of the too much screen time that we've also heard as well. So that's where I am now.
All right, thank you, Ms. Schallheim. So I think that there is a motion to defer it. Are you going to withdraw it, or how we want?
Yeah, I mean, it's the board's motion now, but we can unanimously agree to withdraw it and just not vote on it. I think that's acceptable.
Motion to withdraw. Motion.
Second.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
No, and then by consensus.
All right, by consensus. Thank you.
Brings us back to the initial motion.
So we're back to the original motion. All right. We'll start over. Dr. Bedell.
The superintendent recommends approval of policy JCO, subject to final correction for style and format.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Whew, there being none. Ms. Howell.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Mr. Soapworth?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Nay.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
And Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-1.
All right. Next up is item item 6.04, policy revision, third reader, student sexual harassment and misconduct, policy JP. Dr. Padel.
Madam President, as a reminder, the policy is being revised to reflect the 2020 Title IX final rule currently in effect. With that being said, the superintendent recommends approval of policy JP subject to final correction for style and format.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Howell?
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott? Aye. Mr. Soapworth?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
And Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 6.05, transportation facility schematic and design. Dr. Padel, do you have the motion?
Madam President, the superintendent recommends approval of the transportation facility at Shipley Avenue schematic design.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yep.
Okay, I see a couple of lights. All right, let's go with the first one. I see Ms. Schallheim.
I'm really excited about this. Let me tell you why. In 2019, 2020, let's go back to the before times. The board at that time, which I'm the last standing member of, hired Prismatic to do a really thorough audit that included start times, included facilities, included all of these wonderful things. And this, my friends, is basically the last major item that was recommended as a result of that audit. This will not only give us much needed real estate to park buses on and a path to create our own fleet rather than relying on, I'm guessing, a dozen different contractors at this point. Maybe it's more, I don't know.
It is more.
It is more. How many contractors?
About 16.
Geez. So instead of relying on 16 contractors, we might one day make some moves to reduce that number. But it also provides our staff with decent working conditions to do their jobs and to be productive, even more productive than they already are. So I am thrilled to bits to support this. I loved reading the report. This is long overdue, and I just thank everyone involved for getting us here. So, thank you.
Dr. Tobin.
Thank you. I'm similarly thrilled for similar reasons. I was not on that board, but I was a parent in the school system at the time and paying very close attention. I also remember very quickly after Dr. Bedell took his position, and you may recall we were missing a few bus drivers.
Just a few.
Yeah.
You took a trip to the transportation
Millersville,
facility.
I couldn't believe what I saw, Dr.
Oh, yeah.
Tobin. Okay.
And I believe the staff said that was one of the first times they'd ever had a superintendent come visit them in that facility. And I know transportation's not an easy job, and I know our staff has been working under very difficult conditions, and I know we have a need for space where we can do the repairs on our own fleet and various other needs that go with this. So the report looks terrific. Very excited about it. Thank you for all the work that has gone into it thus far. And I look forward to seeing holes in the ground and then things go up on top of those holes in the ground. And so thank you very much.
Ms. Pulliam.
Thank you. From what I hear, this is a great milestone. I just want to ask you about our vendors, because many of the vendors that we use are local and there are small businesses in our county. Is the goal, will they still be our vendors? Okay, I just want to make sure that we are thinking about them.
Jeff Hagan, Acting Chief Operating Officer. Yes, we're not intending to displace anybody. This is for our own forces to have better working environments and to consolidate our operations into one location.
Thank you
And
very
I
much.
should clarify, we will keep the South River location for South County, but this will consolidate the Millersville and the Waterford lots.
All right, thank you so much.
And if I could, just because you're right, thank you for that clarification. They will think that we're doing this to get rid of contracts, but here's what I will say, and I do want to be crystal clear with everybody for the record. We do have a responsibility as enrollment grows. My expectation is that we're having a little bit more control over some of that growth to control transportation. It's not to take away from anybody, but we're not going to be looking to constantly outsource everything when we now are in a position to have some amenities to be able to absorb some more of that with AACPS staff. So I just want to make that crystal clear, because I think folks will think, oh, you guys are trying to get rid of us, and that is not what we're trying to do. But we do have a responsibility to have some more ownership over time, too.
All right, I see no more comments. And no further discussion, so Ms. Howe.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott? Aye. Mr. Soakworth?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi? Aye. Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Ms. Stent?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. All right, next up is item, you might as well sit there. Next up is item 6.06, Broadneck High School third-party project installation of a safety netting on turf field 2.
Thank you, Madam President. The superintendent recommends approval of the Broadneck High School third-party project, installation of safe netting on turf field 2.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I see no lights. Ms. Howe.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott? Aye. Mr. Soakworth?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi? Aye. Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
And Ms. Stent?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Next up is item 6.07, Chesapeake High School Athletics Fieldhouse Stormwater Management Inspection and Maintenance Agreement. Dr. Bedell.
Madam President, the superintendent recommends approval of the Chesapeake High School Athletic Fieldhouse Stormwater Management Inspection and Maintenance Agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I see no lights. All right. Ms. Howe.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott? Aye. Mr. Soakworth?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi? Aye. Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
And Ms. Stent?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
All right. Next up is item 6.09, filling vacancies on executive committees at countywide Citizen Advisory Committee. Did it have a motion to approve? I know. Vice VP, can we get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. It's Ms. Schallheim.
I just want to thank everyone that applies for CAC positions. The quality of the applicants is sort of, well, to me, mind-blowingly awesome. Just the depth of experience and the variety of experience, and just these wonderful individuals that choose to apply for this role never ceases to amaze me. And I guess I'll just say this. For those who aren't successful today, it really isn't because of your application. Your applications are all wonderful. It's just it's a good problem, but don't think that you're not totally worthy, because you all are. So yeah, that's all I'll say. Thank you so much.
And thank you for the comments, Ms. Schallheim. And I echo that. I think that the Citizen Advisory Committee, the work that you do, the commitment that you have, the feedback that you provide us, not only is it invaluable, but it's well thought out. And she's not here today, but I just want to thank Ms. Jennifer Lombardi for everything that she has done. I know she's trying best to retire. She's trying to figure out how to do that successfully. I tried it 3 times. It did not work. So I just want to say publicly, for the work that she's done with our Citizen Advisory Committee, her dedication has never wavered. She was so instrumental in not only walking us through the process, in the selection process for this group, but also making sure that we understood the passion of the individuals that put in. So if you are thinking about doing something for the school, and it's a public request, and you want to do something that's really invaluable, it is being a member of the Citizen Advisory Committee. So we are still continuing to look for opportunities every day to bring the community into our school system, and this is not only just one way, it's an important way. So thank you all for all of those that applied, and with that, I see no more comments. We will move forward with Ms. Howell.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Shellheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi? Aye. Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
And Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
All right, next up is item 7.01, the construction status report. Board members, any discussion? And finally, 7.02, award of contracts, any discussion? Okay, Ms. Pulliam.
I just want to thank the Apex program for providing us these really cool jerseys. They're really, really cool. Thank you. Just a slight plug.
They are really cool jerseys, and thank you all very much. This concludes today's motion. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a great afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I saw her come out with it. I'm like, that's really cool.